Stand for the singing of the national anthem. May you lead us in with your indulgence, Mr. Speaker, may I ask may I ask us to take our seats, and while I invite Tendai Dondo Fema to give us an opening prayer. Tendai?
Hello, everyone. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the day that you have given us, for the launch of the Parliamentary Caucus on Persons with Disabilities. Thank you very much for the dedication and vision of the leaders that came here. We are praying for unity and progressive discussion to change life of persons with disabilities. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
May I request us to give you a round of applause? Thank you. My name is Brian Malvin Casey-Tole. For those who don't know me, I am in the Zimbabwe Trust Board, as well as a board member for the Zimbabwe Youth Council, and most importantly, a radio personality with J.F.N stereo. I'm honored to be the moderator for this session, and I will be co-moderating it with our clerk, the Clerk of Parliament, Mr. Chokoda, whom I'm going to invite to take the stand now and lead us through the proceedings. Over to you, Mr. Chokuda. Let us give him a round of applause as he comes.
Thank you very much, Brian, and good morning, honorable members, honorable speaker. Honorable Speaker, allow me to welcome everyone to the launch of the Disability Caucus for members of Parliament. Honorable members, honorable Speaker, allow me to recognize the Honorable Speaker of Parliament, Honorable J.F.N. Mudenda, who's our guest speaker. Allow me to recognize the chairperson of the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, Honorable Majome. Allow me to recognize members of the Speaker and the President of the Senate's panel, Chief Whips that are present, members of the National Assembly and the Senate here present, representatives from the UN family, representatives from organizations that deal with persons with disabilities, senior government officials, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Speaker, at this juncture, allow me to invite the chairperson of the Disability Caucus, Honorable Nyampinga, to give us the welcome remarks. Honorable Nyampinga.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited. I hope I will be able to deliver the welcome remarks in the right way. I'm so excited. We have been long waiting for this to happen, and finally it has happened. Allow me to recognize the Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Advocate J.F.N. Mudenda. I also want to recognize the Human Rights Commission Chair, Honorable Majome. I'm excited to have you around, my home girl. I would also want to recognize the UN representing the UN family. My sister, welcome. I would like to recognize the Secretary General for the Parliamentary Disability Caucus, Honorable D. Molokeli, the chairpersons of various committees here present, the chief whips and deputy chief whips here present. I would like to also recognize the chairpersons in their names, those who are present, Honorable D. Mashonganyika, Honorable K. Kaitano, Honorable A. Mrambiwa, Honorable Kumede, and Honorable E. Mutodi. These chairpersons represent crucial committees to do with Disability Caucus. Honorable members of Parliament here present, the Clerk of Parliament, Mr. K.N. Chokuda, staff of Parliament, the United Nations staff, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am deeply honored to welcome you all to this inaugural launch of the Parliamentary Disability Caucus on the rights of persons with disabilities. Allow me to extend my heartfelt appreciation to the Honorable Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Advocate J.F.N. Mudenda, for officiating this event. Your presence here is a testament to your commitment to the noble cause of advancing the rights and dignity of persons with disabilities. This idea that has come to fruition today was conceived in the 9th Parliament. It is through the tireless effort of the steering committee in the 9th Parliament that worked diligently to push this initiative. Your commendable dedication and perseverance have brought us to this momentous day. Before I delve into the intricacies of this event, allow me to extend my heartfelt appreciation to site savers, Deaf Zimbabwe Trust, ZimCode, and Equal Zimbabwe Trust for their exceptional efforts in organizing the resources for the disability launch of this caucus for the Parliament of Zimbabwe. your dedication and collaborative spirit of the nation's convention. Of the nation conventions on the rights of persons with disabilities. Mr. Speaker, pardon me, there's something that is not right here. Honorable Speaker, honorable members, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, today marks a significant milestone in our collective journey towards advancing the rights of persons with disabilities. We gather here as champions of inclusivity and equality, determined to ensure that no one is left behind in pursuit of equitability, economic growth, and realization of our National Vision 2030. As we launch this caucus, we acknowledge the notable progress that our nation has made so far in advancing the rights of persons with disabilities, from the enactment of the Disabled Persons Act of 1992 to the ratification of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities in 2013, not forgetting the National Disability Policy of 2021. The recent approval for ratification of the protocol to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities by Parliament, as well as the current Persons with Disabilities Bill, which is still before Parliament for scrutiny. The bill seeks to repeal the Disabled Persons Act of 1992 and to domesticate the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and ensure that all laws align with the National Disability Policy as well as the constitutional provisions of the Republic of Zimbabwe. The Persons with Disabilities Bill is a testament to the nation's commitment to creating a society that values equity and empowerment for all, regardless of their abilities, as enshrined in the Section 3, 1A of the Constitution, stating that, and I quote, Zimbabwe is founded on the principles of respect for dignity and worthy of every human being, with subsection C of the same section speaking to the respect for the equality and dignity of all persons. All these government efforts and constitutional provisions resonates well with the principles of Vision 2030, which prioritizes the empowerment and the inclusion of persons with disabilities. To that effect, Honorable Speaker, honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, the primary objectives of the caucus would be to advocate for disability mainstreaming in legislation, government policies and programs, enhance the participation of persons with disabilities in economic development and entrepreneurship from grassroots level, advocate for their proportional representation in both the National Assembly and Senate, recognizing that between 12 to 15% of the population in Zimbabwe have some form of disability. Hence, the need to push for a corresponding representation in Parliament and to make sure that each stratum in the disability constituency is represented, promoting equal access to education, health care, and social services for persons with disabilities, improve access to assistive technologies and rehabilitation services, and support inclusive education and sports development for persons with disabilities, among multiplicity of other aims. Honorable members, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, the enormity of the task before us is undeniable. Therefore, we humbly appeal to your esteemed office, Honorable Speaker, to assist us in securing necessary funding from civic society organizations and development partners to ensure our endeavors are all supported. While the road ahead may present challenges, your invaluable support and collaboration of government, civil society organizations, and other stakeholders, we are confident in our capacity to champion the rights of persons with disabilities. Let us celebrate this significant milestone and eagerly embrace collaborative opportunities that await us. Before I conclude, Mr. Speaker, the social media is so much awash with the abuse of persons with disabilities. And sometimes we find out that during our follow-ups as the caucus to see if issues have been resolved, sometimes we find out that nothing has been done. And I think through your office, Mr. Speaker, and with your caucus and the committee that represents also persons with disabilities, we have a lot to do to make sure that a lot of abuses that are happening to persons with disabilities are stopped forthwith. I thank you, and I thank the House.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nyampinga, for the welcome remarks. I think she deserves another round of applause. Honorable Speaker, honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, we'll have a short musical interlude, just one song. Thank you.
My, hello, can you hold me? Honorable Speaker says sorry for breaking protocol. Just had to give context to the song. This song was sang by Chikom Chegwa, who is a person with disability, along with Derek Impofu. It's the lead song for the Equal Zimbabwe campaign. As you can hear, it's saying Sizolingana, Zvakaenzana. It's a celebratory song for a milestone like this. So I encourage the House to just stand up and dance a little bit and enjoy. It's a day for celebration. Thank you. Let's have the song one more time.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to invite the Honorable Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Advocate J.F.N. Mudenda, to give us his keynote address. Honorable Speaker said if we may address the House. Please be seated. When I was in Zambia a few days ago, we were inducting the presiding officers of the National Assembly of Zambia and their staff, senior staff members. And one of the items that was presented was the issue of protocol. And they present a very vibrant, middle-aged woman, lady, I should say, said, the pain of African meetings is that when they start the meetings, there's such a litany of introductions and recognition of people. As you said, it's only happening in Africa. So if you speak English, you must adopt their attitude of accosting, where they simply say, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to this auspicious occasion for the inauguration of the Caucus for People Living with Disability. Now, the caucus prefers Disability Caucus, and I disagree. I prefer the caucus for the people living with disability. It's more complete. This is a epical and pivotal moment
in our Parliament's history, wherein this pioneering group of members of Parliament has resolved assiduously in Zimbabwe through the establishment of this voluntary caucus. It was not foisted upon them. It is their pure initiative. In society, we expect to meet more and more of such champions who break the boundaries of comfort zones. Accordingly, Parliament and indeed all concerned stakeholders congratulate all members of this caucus for your laudable philanthropic advocacy. Amchope, Makorokoto, you are so many of you here. The reverberation of your applause is very insignificant. Why? Now, the ululating women, well done. This is very African. It is my hope that the seed of this caucus you have sown today will germinate and blossom into a thriving entity whose legacy will outlive the membership of the 10th Parliament. As His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Maktoum, who is the ruler of Dubai currently, has exhorted us by affirming that, and I quote, we may not live for 100 years, but the products of our creativity can leave a legacy after we are gone. I repeat, we may not live for the hundreds of years, but the products of our creativity can leave a legacy long after we are gone. That is why we give credence of the genesis of the mooted idea of this caucus. In the 9th Parliament, as extremely salutary endeavor, which has led to the launch of this innovative caucus today. Someone is ululating with his cell phone. Please switch it off. Is it mine? I too, as speaker, must take orders to myself. Switch it off. In this regard, I applaud the collaborative spirit between this caucus and in particular with Deaf Trust Zimbabwe, which must be sustained eternally for the sake of continually actualizing the objectives of this caucus in pursuit of the rights and freedoms of the people living with disability, whose disability must not be misconstrued as inability. This collaboration culminated in the formation of a steering committee tasked with the noble mission of establishing a working group. However, the Ninth Parliament lapsed before the coming into fruition of this apostolic endeavor. Thus, the midwifery of this caucus today significantly espouses the path towards a society founded upon the principles of inclusivity and equity, of leaving no one and no place behind. Honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, as representatives of the people, it is your solemn responsibility as parliamentarians to ensure that the voices and the needs of all citizens, including those living with disability, are heard and addressed positively. Are heard and addressed positively. Don't realize and say there is a problem. Big question that must be asked is, what are you doing with that problem? For that reason, this caucus should be more than just a group of like-minded parliamentarians and stakeholders. Like other caucuses, it has to be a powerful force for mindset change, not amongst yourself. A change of mindset change across all sectors of our society. A beacon for hope, a beacon of hope for the millions of people living with disabilities in our society. Through this parliamentary lobby and advocates collective, the opportunity should arise to amplify the perspectives and experiences of this often marginalized community, so that it can abundantly actualize its aspirations in all sectors of our economy without any apology at all. In addition to serving as a watchdog and monitoring the effectiveness of existing laws and policies related to disability rights, this caucus is enjoined to work with select committees to hold the government accountable for its commitment and actions regarding the needs of people living with disability. Such cross-cutting approach guarantees the multidimensional tackling of the challenges faced by people living with disabilities wholesomely. Consequently, this will ensure that the rights of persons living with disabilities are upheld in both letter and spirit of the caucus's endeavors as it pursued the consummation of its objectives, namely, to advocate for legislation on disability mainstreaming across all sectors of our economy. You cannot fulfill this objective if you don't do some research, comparative research, to find out how other countries are tackling the issue of people living with disabilities. That comparative approach will be a barometer for future tasks by the caucus. Now, to champion matters affecting persons living with disabilities, to champion, stand out as champions. Be not apologetic of what you have started. And be inspired in that championship by luminaries. I think the only luminary in this area of human endeavor, Jairus Giri, who lies at the National Heroes Acre, being recognized for such philanthropic work of uplifting the rights and freedoms of people living with disabilities, beginning way back in 1946. May his soul rest in peace. The other objective, which we must address, is to promote norms and standards that promote effective participation of persons living with disabilities. Establish the norms and the standards. What you do for people living with disabilities in Bulawayo must be the same in Marondera, must be the same in Wange, must be the same in Backridge, everywhere. There must be equity and, to some great extent, equality of treatment. Then the other, to lobby for budgetary allocations for the procurement of their assistive devices. How many times have you seen when the First Lady addresses people during her humanitarian tours, people coming forward requesting for wheelchairs, requesting for this type of assistive devices? How many times? Now, your caucus, therefore, must spread its wings in the discovery of those people living with disabilities, so that every corner of Zimbabwe is taken care of, and those people are identified. Now, the other, so during budget time, which is coming very soon now, you will have to work with the Committee on Public Service, Labor, and Social Welfare, and find out whether in that proposal, budgetary proposal, there's something for people living with disabilities. Find it out. Find it out. The next one is to enhance the organizational capacity for persons living with disabilities, for them to have a a unity of purpose. The caucus, through its membership, cannot be everywhere. So, we need a capacity building exercise which will ensure that wherever these people living with disabilities are able to organize themselves and produce leadership amongst themselves, so that your involvement as a caucus will be at arm's length. But that arm should not be too long, otherwise, you lose the vision of your responsibility. So let them grow to organize themselves, capacitate them. And the Parliament, through its contacts, will ensure that such capacity building programs are truly supported practically. All of us require or need that we are useful. You have a sense of being useful when some employment opportunities are created for you, either self-employment or employment within the group. And in so doing, people living with disability are economically empowered. Economically empowered. Those who have had the opportunity to visit Gyros Dairy Centers, you can see the wonderful craftsmanship that take place there in these centers through self-employment. That is the route to go. We want an empowered group of people living with disabilities, and not that we have people who have to beg all the time. The habit of begging detracts of a human being's human dignity. Now, the other objective is to raise awareness of the vocal cry of persons living with disabilities, so that they should not be discriminated against on the basis of unfounded stigma. That is why I said at the beginning of my delivery, you have an apostolic mission. You have an apostolic mission by raising the awareness of this cry. It should not be a cry in the wilderness. It should be a cry that goes to the ears of the caucus and those who think alike. Honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, the government of Zimbabwe duly recognized persons living with disabilities as vulnerable group that requires state interventions in order to take measures to empower and provide for their welfare. In that regard, the efforts of the caucus must be in consonant with Section 22, subsection 1 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, which explicitly provides that, and I quote, the state and all institutions and the agencies of government at every level must recognize the rights of persons with physical or mental disabilities, in particular, their right to be treated with respect and dignity. Let us not hear phrases like Wislema, Richrema, Aufungi. That's a big insult. That's a big insult. In our African languages, the one that really hits me well is in Shona. Sega Chirimawa. There are few who are clapping hands because they don't understand Tumoi. Sega Chirima Wafa. Very deep philosophical understanding of the African psyche. If you are dead, you cannot laugh at someone with some disability. In other words, our forebears are telling us, never, never, never laugh at someone who has some disability. You never know. You may be in the same queue. As long as you are living, you may be in the same queue of that condition. Seka, Chirima, Kanaurema, Wafa. Akuslima, Sinlevende, Waso. Esindebeleni. Akuslima, Sinlevende, Waso. Awuhambe usithi indlebe zakhe zinde njengezendlovu. Hayi. Ya. Ngowenu, ngosendo, ngowakini, kahlekwa. Now, this holistic constitutional injunction must spur the caucus towards making concerted efforts to work with the Ministry of Public Service, Labor, and Social Welfare through the attendant portfolio committee in robustly coming up with mitigatory measures to ameliorate the plight of persons living with disabilities. In that vein, do not compete with the portfolio committee, but complement it. There's danger in life where you miss the point. You want to celebrate a position and not the responsibilities of that position. True power is service to humanity. True power is service to humanity, not occupation of a position. So don't compete, complement each other. More emphatically, Section 22(3) of the Constitution enjoins the state to take care of persons living with disabilities in terms of their welfare. work programs, their welfare requirements, needs for communication, and quality of life. One of the outstanding lecturers, senior lecturers, was late, Nerera. He taught at UZ, was blind, but a brilliant, brilliant law lecturer. It is possible to excel. Now, if he had not been given the opportunity to study law, in spite of his blindness, he would not be been appointed a lecturer at the University of Zimbabwe. So the potential is there, the opportunities are there. What is required is to marshal them, to marshal them. That section of the Constitution eloquently urges the state to, for some of you, you did not know. I was in the technical team of drafting this constitution. Commissioner Majome, do you remember? They didn't hear you. Do you remember? Thank you. We were seized with their constitution addressing this group of the citizens. And that is why we say the state must develop programs for the welfare of persons with physical or mental disabilities, especially work programs consistent with their capabilities and acceptable to them or their legal representatives. Some groups may need to work with some lawyer as the protector of those freedoms and rights, especially at the workplace. B, to consider the specific requirements of persons with all forms of disability as one of the priorities in development plans, such as the National Development Strategy number 1. If you read the strategy, among the priority areas in Article 60, you will find that that element of inclusivity is there of the disadvantaged members of society. Caucus, therefore, read your National Development Strategy as you look forward to the creation of the second National Development Strategy. The recognition of the needs of people living with disability should not be lost in the second strategy plan. Encourage the use and development of forms of communication suitable for persons with physical or mental disabilities. I've seen this morning. There is a demonstration happening. We are doing it in Parliament, where you sign language. Now, to foster social organizations aimed at improving the quality of life of persons with all forms of disability. social organizations such as Deaf Zimbabwe, we have to ensure that they are strengthened in terms of their organizational capacity so that they can continue to succeed in advocating for the work of those living with disabilities. Now, affirming the above provisions, Section 83 of the Constitution further asserts that the state should take appropriate measures to ensure that persons living with disabilities realize their full mental and physical potential. The sky is the limit, so they say. Am I right? And the caucus must say the sky is not the limit. Huh? Go beyond the sky, and if you don't reach there, at least you will fall above the trees. Now, look at section 56, subsection 1, caucus. The question of discrimination is prohibited because it says all persons, it doesn't say all persons except, but it says all persons are equal before the law. Not only that, and they have the right to equal protection and benefit of the law. The Constitution is saying no discrimination whatsoever. And the reason is very simple. Is that the equalizer of humanity is human dignity. That's the equalizer. That's the equalizer. Baboons, monkeys, lions don't have human dignity, although they are creatures of God. Human dignity, human worthiness. And people living with disabilities, they must be able to say to themselves, to affirm to themselves, I have the worthiness of being human. I have the worthiness of being human, without any form of hesitation at all. In the same vein, their employment opportunities are guaranteed through the provision of Section 65 of the Constitution, which protects their right to fair and safe labor practices. Those that are on wheelchairs, there must be some ramps for them to access the buildings with ease. Furthermore, Section 67 of the Constitution guarantees the political rights of citizens, including the right to vote, which must be accessible also to persons living with disabilities. They must cast their vote, even if they are blind, even if they are deaf, even if they are dumb. Additionally, Section 75 and 76 of the Constitution guarantee the right to education, health care, respectively, both of which must be accessible and inclusive of persons living with disabilities. Why not come up with a law that gives positive discrimination for those living with disabilities to have first-hand access to health care? Now, it is this broad context as outlined by these constitutional provisions that the Caucus for Persons Living with Disabilities in Parliament is a cardinal endeavor in ensuring that these rights are upheld and translated into tangible programs of action to improve the lives of Zimbabweans living with disability. Now, let us not be idealistic, but be action-oriented at all times. We want the caucus to pursue tangible results. Now, these constitutional provisions cited above resonate well with international protocols which proffer a grounding and some guidelines for the government of Zimbabwe in looking at disability issues from regional and international perspectives. As a member of the United Nations, Zimbabwe is signatory to the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, which it ratified in September 2013. This ratification adequately attests to Zimbabwe government's unequivocal dedication to upholding the rights of persons living with disabilities and conformity with international standards and norms. Recently, the approval of the ratification of the protocol on the African Charter on Human Rights, Human and People's Rights in the rights and the rights of persons with disabilities is a glaring evidence towards the commitment of this cherished cause by the government of Zimbabwe. Now, I've just quoted these two international protocols. Now, the caucus must have time to read them and pick out those relevant sections of the protocols so that you have a clearer understanding of the task before you. Then the government, of course, enacted Disabled Persons Act. I don't know why we called it Disabled Persons Act. Is there such thing as disabled persons? Eh? Is there such thing as disabled persons? No. I take the responsibility because we are part of the system that did the enactment. I'm happy that nonetheless, the government has come up with the National Disability Policy of 2021, which does consolidate government's synchronization of its perspectives relevant to persons living with disability. I urge the caucus to read that policy religiously. Now, to further improve the welfare and status of persons living with disabilities, as the chairman has indicated, there's a bill now before Parliament, and it should be able to go through quite easily. But the beauty of this bill is that it will repeal the Disabled Persons Act. And it will not only talk about the challenges, but it is coming up with rights issue-based approach, emphasizing the rights and freedoms of people with disabilities. The public hearings have been conducted on the bill, and it is my hope that the recommendations of the committee will be tabled during the second reading. And I expect Chair Ungapi, yes, behind me, Chair, your team must be in the forefront of debating that bill. And if there are certain amendments that you want to usher in, do so without hesitation, so that you can capture the essence of your mandate. In Parliament, particularly in the Senate, in terms of Section 120, subsection 1, it says there will be 80 senators, and I quote, 2 are elected in a manner prescribed in the electoral law to represent persons with disabilities. I've seen these senators wanting to go all over the show, and they've applied for permission from me to do so. And each time they've applied, I have not hesitated to sign. Proceed. Come and come and come again so that you are exposed in your portfolio. But also, most significantly, we have a blind member of parliament, Rosie Mbofu. Ungaphi? Kathi wena awuqalanga duze lama-senators ethi lilonke, awutshelanga balinketha bechabe. I'm happy you are here, honorable member. I'm happy. I'm happy because she has been appointed special advisor to His Excellency the President. Replacing the late Malinga. Replacing late Malinga. Please, you may be seated. Now, caucus, feel proud that the issues regarding people or persons living with disabilities is now being handled at the highest office of the land. May I urge you, therefore, Chair, one of the days that you go and present yourself to His Excellency the President and say, we are there to bolster your vision regarding people or persons living with disabilities. I think it will be a very opportune time to meet His Excellency the President. Now, steps are being taken to fulfill Section 6 of the Constitution, which clearly states that, and I quote, the state must promote and advance the use of all officially recognized languages used in Zimbabwe, including sign language. And they must create conditions for the development of those languages. End of quote. Now, this initiative aims to ensure that individuals with deaf impairments have access to information during their interactions at public events, inclusive of parliamentary processes. That's why we've employed someone in Parliament and to use sign language during our parliamentary processes. Honorable members, let us fight through the caucus the question of the stereotype barriers, such as this stigma. We must change the mindset in our education institutions, at our workplaces, because we believe that these citizens are not less human beings. They are not less human beings. Our brothers and sisters living with disabilities do possess incredible wealth of talent, creativity, and determination to excel in life. Some as doctors, others as engineers, others as artists, athletes, lawyers, and leaders in their own right. Let us embrace them. Let us embrace them. There's a quotation from Jimmy Ray. What does he say? I can't change the direction of the wind, but I can adjust my sails to always reach my destination. Profound. I'll repeat that quotation. I can't change the direction of the wind, but I can adjust my sails to always reach my destination, unquote. Changing selves means in my humanity, as someone living with some disability, I accept that, but I can change my life for the better, provided I'm given some opportunity to do so. So let us assist, let society assist our brothers and sisters to adapt and adjust their life situations in order to actualize their human endeavors. Now, the key message is one of resilience, flexibility, and personal agency. You are able to carry yourself in spite of your condition. Even when the winds of life, circumstances, obstacles, and some disabilities may seem beyond any control measures, we can still navigate successfully by adjusting ourselves, namely our mindset, strategies, and actions, and attain the full potential of persons living with disabilities. It is our duty as a just society to empower them, to uplift them, and to ensure that they have the same opportunities as everyone else. Irrefutably, disability is not inability. So, on that note, let us congregate together as a unified society and declare with one sonorous voice that disability, inability. And that God cares for all his creatures without any form of discrimination at all. It is now my singular honor and privilege to declare the Parliamentary Caucus for Persons Living with Disability officially launched. As I wish you fruitful cooperation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for that insightful speech. I think the Honorable Speaker deserves another round of applause. And I think the caucus, Honorable Speaker, will take heed of the things that you have said in your speech. They are very invaluable. I also noticed a few other things that you said off the cuff. I know our IT people were recording the speech. They might also be advised to see the full video, because it is things that I noticed were not in your speech, but very important, which they need to take note of. Thank you very much. According to our program, I hand over back to Brian Stoller for the next proceedings. Brian, if you could proceed.
Sizolingana. Are we happy as a house? I'm not seeing it. I'm so excited to hear the speaker speaking for that long. Usually it's order. Honorable, sit down. That's the speaker I'm used to. So I was so excited today to hear him speak for that long. Let's give him another round of applause. Suffice it to say that, Honorable Speaker, I'll be joining you in the 11th Parliament. So I'm happy to see, in the 11th session, I'm happy to see the work that the 10th session is doing. They are setting the ground for us. I'm definitely coming there come 2028. 2028 in the Ripo, the Parliament. And I also want to acknowledge, if we go to our information pack, there's a roadmap that is leading us to where we are now. And if you go to 2023, there is a motion that was moved in Parliament by Honorable Sitole, not me. Yeah, the Honorable Sitole back then is from, he was then Member of Parliament for Bikita. I'm happy that he is here with us. He chaired the steering committee for this. And we just want him to stand so that we can acknowledge him and also thank him for the work that he did to get us to where we are. Thank you so much, my brother, for setting that the tone for where we are now. And also, let's give him a round of applause. By the way, Honorable Speaker, when we are clapping in sign language, this is how we clap, in sign language. So let us give him a sign language round of applause. All right, and if you didn't register, let's do so. For now, let me invite our two senators, Senator Shiri, to give us some remarks on the state of disability inclusion in Zimbabwe. We started Senator Shiri, then we move on to Senator Shaw in that order. Let's give him a round of applause as they come to the podium.
Thank you very much, Director of Ceremony. A refreshing morning to you all. Allow me to recognize the presence of our own Speaker of Parliament, J.F.N. Mudenda, the Clerk of Parliament, Mr. K. Chokuda, the Chairperson of Parliamentary Caucus, Honorable Yampinga, and our Chairperson, Portfolio Committee on Social Welfare, all members of Parliament, our diplomatic community, particularly the UN family, our development partners, Zimbabwe, site savers, and Zimcods. Allow me also to recognize our umbrella bodies, Podpace and NASHCO. Allow me also to recognize our organizations of persons with disabilities here present, and also the media practitioners, distinguished guests, comrades, and friends. It is my singular honor, gratitude, and exuberance to stand before you on such a momentous occasion as this one, where we get to witness the official launch of the parliamentary structure, which is poised to bring significant strides in Zimbabwe's lawmaking process as a result of the amplification of the voice of one of the historically marginalized groups in Zimbabwe. Let me hasten to say, Makorokoto, Amhlope, for such a tremendous job resulting in where we are today. This is yet another true testament of Zimbabwe's mantra of leaving no place and no one behind, where one of Zimbabwe's key pillars in entrenching democracy has walked the talk by ensuring that the aspirations and desires of persons with disabilities, in as far as formulating sound, realistic, and concrete laws, are made possible through the introduction of the Disabilities Caucus in Parliament. This entails that the future for the disability rights movement is not only bright, but auspicious. At this juncture, allow me to unpack the status of disability inclusion in Zimbabwe by clearly pointing that Zimbabwe has always been a trendsetter when it comes to advancing the rights of persons with disabilities. This is evidenced by its thrust to cement inclusion through putting in the place progressive laws and policies such as our own homegrown Constitution of Zimbabwe, where disability rights and fundamental freedoms are clearly espoused in sections 3, 6, 22, 56, and 120. Disability, like gender, remains a cross-cutting issue at both national and international level. As such, the government of Zimbabwe took 2 giant steps in 2013. By the way, I also took part in the constitution making, Honorable Speaker. Put disability on both national and international platforms. These include the promulgation of the constitution that gave persons with disabilities the right to self-representation over and above active participation in public life. The Constitution of Zimbabwe Amendment 20 of 2013, unlike the previous constitution adopted at Lancaster House together with its 19 amendments, the current Constitution of Zimbabwe looks more disability friendly. Section 6 of the Constitution recognizes and accords sign language as one of the national languages in Zimbabwe. Section 22 implores government to consider the special needs of persons with disabilities in all developmental plans. In addition, Honorable Speaker, the section calls for social inclusion in areas of employment, welfare, forms of communication, and reasonable accommodation regarding buildings and other public amenities to which members of the public are ordinarily allowed to access. Section 76 of the Constitution guarantees the right to health for those suffering from the chronic illnesses. This is a positive development if well implemented, as it facilitates good health care for those with mental and other disabilities requiring constant medical care and attention. Honorable Speaker, I'm going to quote Honorable Speaker like a legislator. Section 83 of the Constitution guarantees persons with disabilities the right to education, self-reliance, a family life, medical care, and rehabilitation, as well as protection against exploitation. The Constitution provides for the political representation of persons with disabilities. In this light, 2 senators are elected by persons with disabilities themselves through their various formulations to represent them in Parliament. And I am here as a senator representing persons with disabilities. Zimbabwe ratified the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities together with the optional protocol on the 20th September 2013, as alluded by our Honorable Speaker. The convention is yet to find space on the national statute books. As if that was not enough, government went on to ratify the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities on the 23rd September on the same year. The advent of the Second Republic, whose mantra was that of towards an upper middle income economy by 2030 as espoused in its Vision 2030, saw the creation of the Department of Disability Affairs in 2018. During the same year, His Excellency the President of the Second Republic, Comrade Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa, took a giant step towards embracing the citizenship of persons with disabilities by holding a disability interface on the 26th June 2018. It was at that interface that the President articulated his vision of inclusivity by opening up all doors to enable persons with disabilities to fully participate in national development. This pledge of national inclusivity saw government moving with speed to put in place a national disability policy for Zimbabwe in order to guide disability programming in the country. This saw the launch of the National Disability Policy in June 2021. The National Development Strategy 1, which is the government's economic development blueprint, has made disability a cross-cutting issue. This ultimately means that persons with disabilities are now planned for in Zimbabwe, of course, with their full and active participation in all sectors of the economy rather than being consigned to objects of charity. Zimbabwe's organizations of persons with disabilities can conveniently be divided into two main categories. The first is that of the organizations run by persons with disabilities. These are usually concerted with the rights and participation of persons with disabilities. They fall under the umbrella board of the Federation of Organizations of Persons with Disabilities in Zimbabwe, FODPES. The second group of organizations of persons with disabilities consists of mainly service organizations. This provides services to persons with disabilities and fall under the National Association of the Care of the Handicapped, NASHCO. The footprints of the Second Republic on the disability front remains visible for all to attest. For the first time in the history of this country, Zimbabwe has distinguished itself among the family of nations as one of the most disability inclusive nations. This has been seen in the Second Republic by defying all odds by appointing to its administrative hierarchy persons with disabilities like our own, my colleague, Honorable Rosenfeld, now occupy influential positions in government as chief directors, managers, among other key portfolios. Most significantly, the appointment of a High Court judge with a disability is a clear testament that to the trust that the Second Republic has vested in the vast abilities and capabilities of the once despised segment of society, appointed on merit, not on disability. Honorable Speaker, as we are gathered to bear witness to the launch of the Parliamentary Caucus on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, you might be wondering how this will aid into the clearly ongoing fight to change the face of the disability in Zimbabwe. When all is in place, they are then further empowered to hold institutions accountable to see to it that they deliver and continue in the trajectory towards progressive and sustainable realization of the disability rights. As such, they speak truth to power and speak where it matters the most in a bid to protect, promote, and advance the rights and needs of a constituency that is said to constitute an estimated population of 1.2 million. Working with the umbrella bodies for persons with disabilities, it creates a new-centered approach to disability advocacy by cultivating and entrenching a culture of collaborative work between the civil society, the disability rights movement, and the Parliamentary Caucus on the rights of persons with disabilities in order to achieve optimum results. Ladies and gentlemen, in the caucus, honorable members in the Disability Caucus, I urge you to back up. Know that ahead is an uphill mountain to climb. The expectations are high, but the time is now. To the constituents at large, your unrelenting efforts have yielded the results, but this is not the end, but the beginning. It's for you to enrich the caucus and cultivate it with ideas, programs, and strategies in order to achieve that which is key, the struggle remains embedded in the recognition of persons with disabilities, increased and meaningful representation, meaningful economic emancipation, and by so doing, we take significant steps to reducing inequality and creating a more equal world, an inclusive and equitable society. In closing, allow me also to quote the words of Dr. Temple, who said, "I am different, not less. The fight remains in embracing the difference because that is where the beauty of humanity continues to manifest." I thank you. Twalumba, loko loko, ngiyabonga.
Thank you, Senator. Tiri kwedu kuchipinge kwatinobva tinobva tati yaqaye dhoyo tanzwa. We have been well instructed by the speaker as well as by the senator. And now I'm going to ask the top table, Mr. Speaker, the clerk and others, if we can just have a photo shoot, and then we're going to break for tea. Our tea will be served table by table. We'll try to do all this in about 15 minutes so that we get back on course in terms of our program. And as the procession will be moving out, I'm going to ask Tipom Chekwa to take the stand and entertain us. We're going to be having tea, and also just to assure her that if the speaker is going to come back, you have another opportunity to play for the top table as well. So now if we can have an arrangement for a photo here in front, I'll also invite Chairperson Majome and other dignitaries who are here to join us in front for our photo so that we are able to diarize this very important day. So let's have our photo and then the procession will move out for tea. All members of the caucus also make your way to the front. One, two. May we all take our seats. May we all go back to our seats. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. May we take our seats. Another photo has been requested for. May we all take our seats. And I want to invite partners to also pose for another photo. Mr. Speaker, say, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, say another photo has been requested. I'm going to ask for two photos, in fact. One with the partners, the Zimbabwe Trust, Site Savers, for Zimbabwe, Code as well. I'm going to invite you to have another photo. And then afterwards, may we cut down on the music. All right, may we take our photo, may we take our seats. Honorable Speaker, say. All those with disability, whatever wheelchairs, different forms of disabilities, be on standby. You're going to have a photo with the speaker just now. Honorable Speaker, say the photo shoot continues. The partners have requested a photo with you, and then afterwards, another one with people with disabilities. So, those with disability, please make your way. Chipo and Skubuona. Let's make our way to the front. Thank you. Thank you. We would like to move on with our program. Thank you so much. So a special request has been made as you are taking back your seats that we have a working tea since our speaker also has other commitments after this one. So we're not going to break per se, but those that feel that they would like some tea, you can just go outside and grab some while we continue with our program. So I'm going to invite Chipo to just give us one musical piece as we are settling so that we continue with our program. Those that require some tea, you can feel free to just grab some outside. Chipo Mchegwa is a celebrity and a well-renowned artist. You are going to hear from her as you can see. Let's give her a round of applause as she takes the stand.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Chipo Muchegwa. Are you guys happy? Okay, the song that I'm going to sing, inonzi Ndiso Swandiri, Hapana Chachinja. As you can see, I'm happy and Ndiso Swandika Sikwandiri Nangwari, Hapana Chachinja. Ndiso Swandiri, Hapana Chachinja. Ndiso Swandiri, Hapana Chachinja. Hapana, hapana, hapana chachinja. Hapana, hapana, hapana chachinja. Mwari vakandisika, ndiri swandiri. I'm happy the way I am, saka sandi chkire. ukandiona ndichiita zvandoita seshamisike, zvandoita nezvanoita zvakafanana. I just do my things different and I'm living my life my own way. All I want is your love. I want you to love me. Teseta kasikwa nemufananidzo wake. Teseta kasikwa nemufananidzo wake. Ndizvo zvandiri pana chichachinja. Ndizvo zvandiri pana chichachinja. Pana chichachinja. Pana chichachinja. Kusiku kwangu ndakadai, hazvirevi ndakashorwa. Mwari vakandisika, vakanga vane chinangwa. Ukandishora washora Mwari, ndizvo zvandiri. Rudo rwake, tsitsi dzake, zvinondikomberedza. I'm a woman of dreams, I'm pretty like you. Our visions are upon me. We just the same, I believe in myself. Ndizvo zvandiri. Thank you. Okay, yanda kuimba iyi, I'm sure mese munoiziva. Saka ndoda kuti mese mumbosumuka timbotamba. Kuri kutonhora uko handiti? Ndezvemoyo. Please, I didn't know down on the corner. Please, I can feel myself rising. You could see that I'm this feeling that you're not gonna deceive me. Moyo wangu give you a chance. Just to follow your sanity. I see you somebody for you. Just to follow your sanity. I see you somebody for you. I see you somebody for you. Thank you.
We continue to celebrate. Let us give Chipo a. I'm trying to think of the words that the speaker used. He said, okay, I'll not go there. A round of applause. So we're now preparing. I'm hoping that our partners, all those that are giving solidarity remarks, you are ready. But Mr. Speaker, I have to tell you a little story that your caucus all knows. That happened to me. Tishaura nyaya yezvandiri. So I was studying in Japan for one of the many degrees that I hold. And yeah, one of many. And so I had volunteered in a children's camp. I was bored. It was during the vacation. I had nothing to do. Couldn't come back to Zimbabwe. It was a bit too expensive. And so I was working with kids. The kids didn't know English very well. I didn't know Japanese that well. So there was a bit of a communication barrier. So the one who kind of had an idea of what was happening approached me and said, Brian son means say. I said, yes. He says, where you come from? I said, I come from Zimbabwe. He says, Zimbabwe, Africa. I said, yes. He's like, hi, Africa. Goes back to the group, has a conversation with his friend, comes back a second time and says, Brian son. I said, yes. He says, where are your parents do come from? I said, they come from Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe, Africa. I said, yes. He goes away. Comes back a third time. Brian son, where grandparents do come from? I said, okay, everybody comes from Zimbabwe, Africa, all of us. All of us, we come from Zimbabwe. Goes away, comes back a fourth time and says, Brian son, so you come from Zimbabwe, parent to Zimbabwe, grandparent to Zimbabwe. Why Sukino no Braku? Why Sukino white too? So I was like, oh my goodness, I don't know the word. I'm gonna try. And I said, I've got albinism. He looks at me confused. He's like, I don't know what I just said. And I said, albinism, albino, I'm an albino. Then suddenly he smiles and says, you come from Arubania. You say you come from Zimbabwe, you come from Arubania. From there, I became the Albanian. It was easier to explain than Zimbabwean. Having said that, let me invite our first partner who's going to give us remarks, and that is Deaf Zimbabwe Trust. Would you like to make your way to the stand, whoever is speaking on behalf of Deaf Zimbabwe Trust? Solidarity remarks, let's make them solidarity remarks, not keynote addresses. Solidarity, keyword. Deaf Zimbabwe Trust, are we ready? All right, I think they're having tea. So we'll move to the chair taking a chair. All right, let's have some music while we try to get people back in.
Honorable members of Parliament, the Speaker wants us back. Please. Members of Parliament, distinguished guests, can we? He has to leave and he wants to say one or two words. Let's bring our tea back. Unfortunately, when you are working with parliamentarians, we don't stick to programs. The programs just go. Please, may we come back into the room. Honorable members on the corner, please, may we come back.
A refreshing morning to us all. I am sorry, tea had cold, and unfortunately, I didn't get any. I recognize our speaker, Advocate Mudenda, the Clerk of Parliament, Mr. Chokuda. We have met a lot online, on email, and it's such a pleasure to finally see you in person. As Deaf Zimbabwe Trust, I will start with the African proverb that has inspired this journey. And it says, if you want to walk fast, walk alone. But if you want
Let's
to
go
walk
back. Tipinde. Ndikutobva munhu wese apinda ngatipinde. Let's go back. Let's go back.
So this journey has been a journey.
As the class monitor. Dormitory.
Our chairperson declared that she's the class monitor today. So we are being monitored. Thank you. I think I can proceed now. This journey has been a journey of many people, many hearts, and hands joined together, working together to achieve this. Today, we salute members of parliament, site servers, ZimCode, the Deaf Zimbabwe Trust Board and staff, and all our development partners and stakeholders for working tirelessly to make this day a reality. Having realized that the senators representing persons with disabilities were few in parliament, the burden of representation was too high. And seeing the need to increase the voices representing persons with disabilities and that need to be addressed, the caucus brings such hope for persons with disabilities and their families in Zimbabwe. When the journey started with the working group, we did not know that we would be here today. We saw the keenness, the eagerness of Parliament to be inclusive, and there was no request that we made to Parliament that was denied. DZT and its partners saw the need to be as passionate and as dedicated and committed to inclusion as we saw Parliament was. There is still a lot of work ahead of us, as Senator Shiri said, that there is a mountain to climb. But I know that to get departments, organizations of persons with disabilities, families of persons with disabilities, civil society organizations, funding partners, and all development partners to work closely with the caucus to address the challenges that remain. We have made progress as a nation. Our constitution is very inclusive. We now have a number of inclusive laws, and the caucus adds to that progress. And so today we are very excited as Deaf Zimbabwe Trust as we support, as we pledge our support and commitment to working with the caucus from today until forever. Our speaker said that we may not live to be 100 years old, but our work will live beyond us. I end with a quotation from Helen Keller, who was deaf and blind. And she said, "Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much." Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara Nyangairi. She forgot to do one thing. I'm glad because she's my director and I can do that as a board member. She forgot to introduce herself. That's Barbara Nyangairi. She is our director at Deaf Zimbabwe. That's the kind of a person that she is. She puts others before self all the time. So sometimes we have to remind her. I was actually glad that she has gone for tea because she could have easily forgotten being Barbara being Barbara. Thank you so much for the remarks, Ms. B. Let me now invite to the stand Zimcod to also give a solidarity message.
Thank you so much, and it's a very good morning to you all. And I would like to recognize our speaker, Honorable Mudenda, our Clerk of Parliament, our partners who are here, honorable members of Parliament, especially those that are constituting the Disability Caucus in Parliament. By our partners, I mean Deaf Zimbabwe, Side Savers, Equals Zimbabwe, but we also have Southern Africa Parliamentary Support Trust, that has worked with us in terms of engaging with Parliament and knowing all the parliamentary politics that we have to navigate for us to be able to engage. I would like to also recall all persons that are living with disabilities in breaking barriers and ensuring that they are progressive policies, they are progressive laws, they are progressive institutions that do represent the rights of persons with disabilities. We are honored today to be part of this momentous occasion of the launch of the Parliamentary Caucus on persons with disabilities. I know the speaker has tried to really talk about the language that we should be using when it comes to addressing and working with persons with disabilities. And I think it's a conversation that we should continue to have. We take it that when we are in the struggle or championing social and economic justice, there are those that always stand at the periphery of development, either by structures or by systems. We cannot overemphasize that persons with disabilities have and continue to face both structural and systemic barriers, discrimination and lack of representation in the halls of power. We are grateful that the government of Zimbabwe has made some steps in terms of inclusion of persons with disabilities. We have representation of persons with disability in Parliament, in the Senate, the senators that we have. And as Zimcod, I was just thinking, we used to actually have in our board a member of an organization that became the senator, probably the first senator, was the Honorable Sibanda, if I'm not mistaken, who went into Parliament to represent persons with disabilities, and it has continued to actually evolve. We hope that this is one of the progressive steps, given the laws that we have, given the policies that we have towards the realization or the progressive realization of the rights of persons with disabilities. As the caucus is being launched, we would like to acknowledge the fundamental challenges, especially on allocation of resources to these critical sector of our society, the disproportionate rates of poverty, unemployment, lack of access to healthcare, education, and social protection for persons with disabilities. Representing a coalition that works on social and economic justice, especially to champion social and economic justice, we realize that poverty has got different faces, but I'm sure we can also put the face of a person with disability and the many intersectionalities that people with disabilities do face at community level and in society. We hope that this is the beginning for us of a journey to dismantle the unjust and build a more egalitarian society. And at Parliament, we hope that this is going to be the beginning of a consolidated effort together, as has been said, for accessibility, for legislation that is progressive and that wears the disability lens, and investing in disability services, which we have actually had, and support and elevating representation of persons with disabilities. We stand together as advocates for people or persons with disabilities to fully participate to be through the institutions and platforms that we create to ensure that people do participate. I would like to end this solidarity message, of course, by declaring our commitment to work with Parliament, to work with disability organizations, to work directly with persons with disabilities in all our programs to enhance the agency of people with disabilities when they are championing their right to access opportunities in various sectors. And I'll end with a quote that says, "Equality is giving everyone the same pair of shoes." So this has to do with the language issue we are talking about. But there is another word and language that we could also use, which is equity, which means it is giving everyone a pair of shoes that fit. So this is what is important. This is what I think we need to focus on. We can come here and give each other pairs of shoes without asking questions. Does it fit? Does someone need this? Do they need a high heel like Janet Joe? Or they need a flat shoe? Does it have to be open, the toe? So there are many questions that we should be asking when it comes to equality and equity. And we'll be glad to walk this journey together and support and make sure that Zimbabwe is progressive and leads and is a thought leader when it comes to inclusion of persons with disabilities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Janet, from ZimCord. Let's give you another round of applause. She has touched on a very important issue, the issue of language, that I just want to briefly add something on real quick. You find that disability language has evolved. As the speaker mentioned, when the bill was gazetted in 1992, it was disabled persons, right? That's the language that was there back then. And then as we moved, as we evolved, it became persons living with disability, because by then disability was being viewed as a medical issue that could be resolved. But now the speaker also mentioned the approach we are taking, a human rights approach, where we are now seeing the person first before everything else, which has also helped the language to evolve to persons with disability or people with disability. The living with having been taken away because it was discovered that disability doesn't really kill you like certain chronic illnesses. So there was no point in referring to it as a medical concept. It's an evolving phenomena, disability. It keeps on changing. So it's important that we always also evolve as we go. Having said that, let me give an opportunity to the UN representative who's going to give us solidarity remarks. Let's give her a round of applause as she comes.
Thank you so much, Brian, the Director of Ceremony. Honorable Speaker of Parliament, you did mention that the litany of introductions and recognition always take a lot of our time. And I want to ride on that principle, because everyone who is present here was recognized through the invitations that we all received. But I would like to recognize the Honorable Speaker of Parliament, who is a guest of honor, and also to applaud his inaugural keynote address. As a guiding document
to direct the work of the caucus that is going to handle persons with disability. Honorable Beatrice, do you agree with me? It can actually be published. It has everything. It celebrates the environment that Zimbabwe has put in place. Wonderful policies, right from the constitution, the policies, the strategies, the laws, the protocols ratified at the international level, at the regional level, and the different engagement at the country level. So when the speaker was speaking, I was looking at my colleagues of the United Nations. I've already introduced myself. And just looking, what are we going to speak? There is a statement that we've put together, our solidarity remarks. And it's a very important platform that we're learning. Everybody is ending with a quote, and I was sitting there looking, there is no quote here. But I was searching, and I have a quote. I'm going to give that quote at the end. Honourable Speaker of Parliament, on behalf of the United Nations family in Zimbabwe, the family of the United Nations is made up of 25 agencies, 19 residents, and 6 out of Zimbabwe. So we came together through our United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework with the government of Zimbabwe. And this agenda of persons with disability is at the core of what we do. We have actually been walking the talk, Honorable Speaker. So our solidarity message is going to be building or focusing on what we are already doing to support this important agenda. And the journey that has been put here 5 years ago, and today we are reaping and seeing the fruits of the journey. Can we continue now to give a round of applause for this 5 years? So on behalf of the United Nations family, Honorable Speaker, we are very, very honored to be part of this journey. And when we looked at what has been put in place, we quoted the Convention of the United Nations of the Rights of People, Persons with Disability. And I was searching, my colleagues are there, they will really attest to this. I said, what actually is the fundamentals? Maybe in the different statements, we have been able to make allusion to it, but I said, I'll make these solidarity remarks in 2 phases. The first phase, I'll just list the 8 guiding principles of this convention that binds us all together. And then the second part, just highlighting what we're already doing as the United Nations in Zimbabwe. There are 8 guiding principles that guide the work that we do to advance this agenda on people, persons with disability. The first one is respect for dignity and individual autonomy. And the speaker talked about empowerment during his keynote speech. Non-discrimination, he spoke about that a lot. The third, full and effective participation and inclusion. Inclusion in everything that we do, integrating this agenda in everything that we do. Respect for difference and acceptance of persons with disability as part of human diversity. Equality of opportunities. Everyone has spoken about that. Accessibility to all the services that we know. Gender equality, respect for evolving capacities and identities of the disabled. The speaker made allusion of that. That's why I'm saying that speech should be printed as a guiding document to guide the work of the caucus. So coming to the second part of our solidarity message, to state what the United Nations family in Zimbabwe is already doing to support this agenda. Our program has 4 core areas. We are supporting the government to set up a comprehensive and operational coordination mechanism. And I know that we have organizations of persons with disability. If we are not coordinated, Honorable Speaker, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we will have sporadic interventions not being accountable to what we are doing to this important agenda. The second key area of our support is addressing the intersectionality of the stigma and discrimination. We have talked about non-discrimination. And what we are doing already is to ensure that we address this aspect of discrimination. And then the third core area is to influence
the National SDG Coordination Mechanism. When the speaker spoke, he looked at the global level. And we know each country that has acceded or ratified any United Nations convention has to report. And the United Nations is here to support the government of Zimbabwe towards influencing the SDG coordination mechanism when it shall be presenting its report on what they are doing to ensure disability inclusion is on the agenda. And then the fourth area of focus that we are supporting the government in this agenda is to ensure the strengthened capacity of the disabled. We want to include them. We have to monitor. Honorable Speaker, we can have all the programs, but if we don't monitor, we'll not be able to be accountable. So the support that we are giving the government through the United Nations Sustainable Cooperation Framework puts also at the center monitoring of what we are doing, and I think it's a very important aspect. And then he went ahead and listed the bills that are in the pipeline in Parliament, and the team, the UN team, put that to remind the caucus, to remind members of Parliament that this bill has to come to fruition. And I remember, Speaker, you said, come and ask for it, mobilize for that bill to be adopted. And we want to say that the United Nations will stand with the caucus to ensure that that bill that is in the pipeline, the persons with disability bill that is undergoing the legislative process, is actually adopted. And then there are several other bills that are in the pipeline. We have the Climate Change Management Bill. Honorable Speaker of Parliament, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we know we are in the era where there is climate issues in the country. We have the El Nino, we have had before. Right now, there is a El Nino induced drought. And we are saying that it is very important to also put on the table of Parliament the Climate Change Management Bill. It is so good to put on the table the Children with Disabilities policies, everything that actually propagates and recognizes the human dignity on all fronts should be put on the table for the Parliament to adopt. So to conclude, Honorable Speaker of Parliament, the United Nations system, through the agencies that are represented here, I'll ask them to stand up before I read the last part. The colleagues who are representing the United Nations here, please, can you stand up? They're seated over there. That's just a representation of the team. We have UNICEF, we have UN Women, we have UNDP, we have UNESCO, and if I've missed any other entity, but the House should know that the United Nations has 25 agencies, 19 resident and 6 non-resident. We are just a representative of the lot. So thank you, my dear colleagues. You may have a seat. So to conclude, the United Nations family stands and reiterates its collaboration with all other partners who have spoken under the leadership of this caucus that has been launched today, under the leadership of the Honorable Speaker of Parliament, and we join the sonorous voice, as the Speaker did mention, to say disability is not inability. And I will end with a quote by John Maxwell, who says that teamwork makes the dream work. The dream of the disability agenda to ensure that it propels and propagates human dignity will be accomplished through teamwork and partnership. Thank you very much for your attention. Tatenda Siyabonga.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Mirinda Tabifo, for the remarks representing the UN. Let's give you another round of applause. She gave me a very serious assignment. Now I have to think of a quote since I'm about to end the program. But yeah, I'll be thinking of one. So right now, let me also invite the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission chairperson, the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission's chairperson, to also give remarks to the House. Chairperson Jessima Jome, over to you. Let's give you a round of applause.
The Honorable Speaker of the Parliament of Zimbabwe, who is my predecessor, my pioneer predecessor as the chairperson of the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission. I come in solidarity, evidently and inevitably, because I walk now presently also in his pioneering footsteps for the first Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission. And as he used to like to remind us, when I was also in the house, that he is also an esteemed teacher. I have also learned the lesson. I have given due recognition to him and to all distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is with such pleasure and excitement that I am being honored also to give solidarity remarks on behalf of the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission on this auspicious launch. It is indeed an auspicious launch of the caucus, presently called the Disability Caucus, but I'm sure soon to be renamed if the cue of the Honorable Speaker is to be taken. I just want to say it is time. It is time that this caucus was established by our parliament, and it is indeed part of. I think we should be proud of this history, and I want to honor and to commend the visionary leadership that came up with this idea and brought it to fruition, and it is indeed leadership, because what I say on a personal note is that that's what we need as Africa, that leadership. And thank you very much from the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission for bringing to birth and letting this baby get born, and clearly it is already growing. I want to also share in my brief solidarity remarks about how I probably don't need to give any solidarity remarks, because the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission is intrinsically and inevitably and inescapably linked to the work that our Parliament of Zimbabwe does, and in this particular baby that the Parliament of Zimbabwe has just given. Apart, of course, from, as I already indicated, the Honorable Speaker was the first chairperson of the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, but not all that, the relationship does not stop there. That the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission is also a creature of our Parliament of Zimbabwe. It was first born, our Parliament birthed the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission even before the Constitution then, I don't know if I can say the Constitution, yes, the Constitution adopted the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission. And again, the Constitution is also another, I think, the most prominent and the most special and the most important, I suppose, product of the Constitution of Zimbabwe. And the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, therefore, was created by the Parliament of Zimbabwe in Chapter 12 through its passage of the Constitution of 2013, and we are therefore proud of that continuing visionary thinking that is clearly taking our country forward. And so, congratulations, Mr. Speaker, sir. Congratulations, Madam Chairperson, and the leadership of the entire caucus for taking us to this time and doing this important, very important step that needed to be done. And that is why I said it is time that we have a caucus to focus our legislative processes, and therefore our national processes, on the important need to always mainstream and focus on and prioritize issues with to do with disability. And I want to just, I even congratulated, I have two more things to say in my solidarity message on behalf of the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission. I want to say that as you start the important work of the caucus, we as the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission are going to, of course, continue also supporting and prodding and probing, and also encourage your work. As you also, because as Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission reports to Parliament, we account for the work that we do through the Honorable Minister of Justice when we present reports. And as we do that, I want to exhort us to maybe strengthen the work that you have and the voice and the power that you have as the caucus of Parliament to make sure that issues of disability are given priority, not only in legislation, and it is encouraging and noteworthy to note that the caucus is being launched at an auspicious time when there's a bill that the Honorable Speaker described that is set to take us as a nation at a better level regarding the protection and the promotion and the fulfillment of the rights of those with disabilities. But that not only in legislation, but also in where it matters, in where the zig is placed. I'm hoping, indeed hoping that, as also the Honorable Speaker indicated, that the budget process is beginning. And I want to just respectfully draw the caucus's attention to a very powerful role and powerful role that you have and potential that you have to, in a very meaningful and practical way, change the course and fate of funding and effectiveness of all work in our nation that pertains to promoting and respecting the rights of those with disabilities. And this is the financial provisions of the Constitution that they are required in Section 298, subsection 1, paragraph B, subparagraph 3, which lays out the principles of public financing for our country. I'm sure that if the caucus leads that, becomes the arrow that leads that crusade to make sure that sufficient funding is devoted, funding and resources are devoted to these particular rights of people with disabilities, the very sad picture that should trouble our consciences, that happens in our country all over the place, which our Honorable Speaker referred to, of people with mobility challenges, people with disabilities having to ask for wheelchairs. I want to think that if the caucus starts its work and utilizes Section 298, subsection 1, subsection 1, paragraph B, subparagraph 3, that requires that all expenditure must be for the development of Zimbabwe, and I quote, that special provision must be made for marginalized groups and areas. I say this so that we maybe do not forget to do that. And I am happy and esteem that I have no doubt that the work that the Disability Caucus will do will assist us to achieve our national objectives that we crafted so deliberately and so and so elaborately in our constitution. I see that the constitution that we all made ourselves as Zimbabweans, whether it was through the ages of Mr. Speaker, so in the technical committee, and through the select committee of Parliament, and through the many, many thematic groups and all the work that we all did. And then at the referendum, we voted for this constitution by a remarkable historical, I think 94%, possibly one of the most affirmed constitutions in a referendum. This is what we did for ourselves. So, and in my favorite section in that whole constitution is Section 8. That gives the national preamble to the national objectives of the Constitution. And it's my favorite because I like to say this, and I hope we remember that our Constitution actually enshrines happiness in it. And it provides in Section 8 that the national objectives, which include the one that Mr. Speaker referred to, that also cover the objectives of the caucus that were enunciated by the Madam Chair. It provides that all the objectives, including the one for objectives for people with disability, it is meant for the purpose that to guide all state organs and agencies to devise and implement policies that result, in the development of Zimbabwe, so that, and I quote the last part, so that everyone, people will lead prosperous, happy, and fulfilled lives. That is everybody. And I have no doubt, therefore, that as we look, as we have our minds and thinking changed in the apostolic way that was enunciated by Mr. Speaker, sir, because he did say the mindset change. As we do that, as the portfolio committee will focus, apart from the finances, or also from the legislative agenda, I want to believe that in terms of those policies, we will be focused as a nation to take a real look at what life is for a person with disability. And I have no doubt, Mr. Speaker, that the leadership of the caucus will look at, for example, something that we don't see in common, our public transport. How does there are guests who are here who are on wheelchairs. Hopefully they have cars that they can drive to. But can you imagine, Mr. Speaker, sir, if you were mobility challenged and you perambulated about with a wheelchair and you want to, I'll just use an Harare example, for example, you want to travel from, well, I live in Mablerain, from Mablerain to town, and you have no private transport of your own, you want to get public transport and you use a wheelchair. The modes of transport that are available are combis and the mishikashikas. Can you imagine what is that like? Is there space for wheelchairs and wheelchair access in mishikashikas and in combis? Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm saying this because I like I said, I'm a disciple of Section 8, because Section 8 of our Constitution requires that everything that we do, Parliament, in legislation and in influencing policy, must be to ensure that people lead prosperous, happy, and fulfilled lives. I have no doubt that the spearheading work of the Disability Caucus will get us to think and get into all those areas in terms of public transport, Mr. The policies. Do we have a public transport system? My own view is that we do not. And we need one, because and I'm glad you said the senators travel everywhere where they go. I'm sure when they travel, for example, to Europe, they've seen people who flag buses that are the buses that you can get each and every other minute. It's on a timetable. You go with your wheelchair, you wait at the bus stop. There's no having and shoving. There are no potholes for your wheelchairs, components and tires to break. You wait at the bus stop. The bus stops when it should. The bus is designed already from a policy perspective to be at a low level that is low enough for a wheelchair, for a ramp to walk, to come over, or if it isn't, it lets out a ramp. But what happens to those in Zimbabwe who are even fortunate enough to have wheelchairs? And what about those who don't? So I just thought I'd give that very, very dramatic example coming from the Human Rights Commission, that we are happy that now the work of the caucus is well cut out to influence that change. And to also say that even for those who are fortunate not to live with disability, that, as was said, disability is, I think, maybe just 5 seconds away. And I want to laud the launching of the caucus, Mr. Speaker, saying to say that it does not actually represent all those that we see presently. We can see who live with disability. It is a caucus that is to be lauded and to be supported because it represents all of us. Because disability is by fate 5 seconds away if we are not born with it. And something also, and I'll just say something that happened to me just as I was approaching the hotel, because just there in Park Lane, a driver of a Mshika decided to, I think, panic and see the municipal police, and all of a sudden he accelerated and turned straight into my path. We missed each other by just a few seconds. And I say this to remind us about how and to laud and say in solidarity that at the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, we have no doubt of the mandate and the potential that this disability caucus of our parliament is going to do. And we stand with you to support you, as you also even call us to question and ask us also, let's keep ourselves on each other's toes. And that we will look forward to working through our thematic area with the committees at the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission. And we have a committee that addresses 4 thematic areas, and one of them is that for people with disabilities, that has in the past lobbied the World Health Organization to support the provision of assistive devices. But again, if the caucus does its work, we will not be having to rely on people from outside. We are an extremely wealthy country, that in terms of the financial provisions that are in our constitution, they are adequate to make sure everybody, including people with disabilities, lead prosperous, happy, and fulfilled lives. So we thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And one parting shot, that was the second thing. I have no doubt, I have a guilty conscience, Mr. Speaker. At some point, I had the privilege of leading the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs. And it was at the time that the Criminal Procedure and Evidence Amendment Bill was being overhauled and amended. And there are certain provisions, shameful, I will say very shameful. That's why I'm saying I have a guilty conscience. There are shameful provisions that are in our statute books. And I am saying this because the Parliamentary Caucus is going to shed light on that. There is a provision, a shameful provision in our constitution that is still there. I have a guilty conscience because when we led that process, for some reason, this provision remained there. It's Section 193 of the Criminal Procedure and Evidence Act. And believe it or not, it provides that it's headed the detention of persons who are deaf or mute or both. It provides that, believe it or not, that during criminal proceedings, if it appears to a magistrate who's presiding, or maybe a judge who's presiding over a criminal matter who is trying a person, if it appears to them that the accused person is unable to conduct their defense due to being deaf or dumb, this is what it says. If after hearing evidence from the state or wherever, if the magistrate becomes convinced that it is necessary for the purposes of either public safety or for the protection of that accused person who cannot speak or who cannot hear, the magistrate may order that they be detained in custody and continue to be in custody because they are deaf and they are dumb. And they shall be taken and detained in a prison, in a remand prison. And then subsection 3 provides that then His Excellency the President can then have to determine whether they go off or not. So I wind up, and I think I've made my point. But Parliamentary Portfolio Committee, congratulations and best wishes, solidarity from the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission. Well done.
Thank you, Chair. We'll forgive you for not ending with the quote, right? Because she gave a real life experience. That's real life for some people, the issues that she was talking about. I'm going to invite Mr. Chokuda, the Clerk of Parliament, to come in on the areas of collaboration, opportunities, as well as recommendations. And after that, we're coming to the end of our program now, so you'll be one of the last people to speak. Afterwards, we're going to have a vote of thanks. So over to you, Mr. Chokuda.
Thank you very much, Brian. Good afternoon. Good morning, everyone. Once again, Honorable Speaker, when I saw my name on the program, I said, what does Honorable Nyampinga want me to say when the Honorable Speaker has spoken? Then I realized she said, if there's any impediment to the work of the caucus, it's going to be the Clerk of Parliament. That's why she has asked me to come in front so that I commit myself before everyone so that she can hold me to account. So Thank you very much for the opportunity. Perhaps just to say, listening to what has been going on, my areas that I will speak to first is the Constitution itself. The Honorable Speaker, the Chairperson, Honorable Shiri, and Honorable Majome highlighted a number of constitutional provisions that deal with issues for persons with disabilities. As the caucus, you must know them ahead. And every time you stand up to debate in the House, we want to hear you using those constitutional provisions to argue. That's the first port of call. Second, I listened to the speech by the Honorable Speaker, and rightfully, like the UN representative indicated, it must be one of a guiding document to you as a caucus. Read it, read it, read it, and read it again, and understand it, because it will guide you as a caucus. It's rich with the areas that you need to undertake and guide you. Then third, there's the strategic plan that was developed by the caucus last year with support from your partners. Let it be a living document that you refer to constantly. Review it, and as you meet every time, say to yourself, where are we in terms of implementing the strategic plan? Because if you don't follow it up, it means you are letting down the constituency that you are representing. The other opportunity that is there, we already have the 2 senators in the Senate representing people with disabilities. Also, we have Honorable Mpofu in the National Assembly. The caucus itself comes in to beef up their voices. Like I said, you must be the voice to amplify the voices of persons with disabilities in Parliament. As you stand up, we need to know when Honorable Maviengwa rises that we are going to hear something related to issues of persons with disabilities. You must be the voices during debates. We have both the National Assembly and the Senate. Part of the role of members of Parliament, the representative role. Wednesday is in the National Assembly, question time, and Thursday in the Senate. Use these people. Give them the relevant information that they must ask the ministers. That's the opportunity that's available. Get their numbers, send them questions that they must be asking government ministers, so that the issues that are in the Constitution are realized. Because the more we ask, the more we get responses to the issues that are provided in the Constitution. So every week, make it a habit to send questions to Honorable Nyampinga and the other members of Parliament, so that they raise those questions in Parliament, either as written questions or as oral questions. Also, we, as an institution guided by Section 141 of the Constitution, we are required by the Constitution to consult the public on matters before Parliament. And I know Deaf Zimbabwe Trust is one of those organizations that are very active. Every day, I always follow our social media platforms. You'll find Deaf Zimbabwe Trust, they are going to attach something related to Parliament, and they follow us much. What I would recommend is every time we advertise for public hearings, as organizations representing persons with disabilities, organize yourself and champion your voices. Have one voice. Have one voice. Get the issues, share them with your constituents, and make sure that your constituents participate in these public hearings, because we advertise them. But also on our part, Honorable Speaker, as Parliament itself, we also need to provide that special opportunity. Yes, we will invite them to the public hearings. I think it's important for us to create that special space for them, for the public hearing. over and above the public hearings that we conduct for the general population, let's create that special platform for them so that they come in and give their views that relate to them. We are currently redoing our website. One of the things that we commit, Honorable Speaker, to do is to make it disability friendly. Let's create sections on the website that even our deaf people are able to access the information that's on our website. Let's create videos on our website, Mr. Makwaza, that will enable the visually impaired, those that are deaf to be able to follow what's happening there. We have Mr. Mtete who can do sign language. Let's have those videos with sign language so that they are also able to participate and follow what's happening in Parliament. Honorable Speaker, the other opportunity that's there is Honorable Rosimpo, who is the special advisor to His Excellency the President. It means you have access to the President through here. Use here. The MPs in this caucus, the two MPs representing persons with disabilities, use that opportunity because she has access to the President. And the President is a listening President. You testified, Honorable Shir, that when he came into office, one of the first things that he did was to organize a conference for persons with disabilities. It shows we have a president who appreciates issues of disability. Let's use it. He has a mantra that leaving no place, no person, no place behind. You know how powerful that statement is. If you want things done, every time you want to push your agenda, say the president says, leaving no person and no place behind. And I can tell you that one will open doors for you. Because once someone hesitates, said, but His Excellency the President is always saying, leaving no person and no place behind. So why am I not getting this opportunity? So let's utilize that mantra because he's a listening president. The Honorable Speaker mentioned something. We are coming to the end of NDS-1. I recall when NDS-1 was being crafted, there were lots of consultations that were done. It is another opportunity for this constituency to utilize and make sure that issues of persons with disability are included in NDS-1 because it is going to be that which is going to guide the government in terms of allocation of resources over the next 5 years as we strive to attain Vision 2030. So make sure as a constituency, you are united and you speak with one voice on your issues so that they are adequately articulated and included in the in NDS-1. Honorable Speaker, you recall one of the things that Parliament has been mandated by the Constitution to do is to interview persons for possible appointment to various commissions. One of the things that has been disturbing is we hardly get persons with disabilities nominated. I recall there's one who was nominated, a lady who came in last year, performed extremely well. And there was no question among members of the Committee on Standing Rules and Order. They simply said, we have to recommend this person to His Excellency the President. And again, His Excellency the President appointed the lady. I remember that, specifically remember that. So when we advertise next for persons to be appointed to commissions, as this constituency, you must identify persons and say, these are our leading persons in this area. Let's recommend them so that they represent you. And I can tell you, the Committee on Standing Rules and Orders, led by the Honorable Speaker, they are very receptive. And that's how we can get more and more of persons with disabilities in higher offices. So let's utilize that opportunity. We advertise on our on social media, we advertise national press, but also you as members of parliament who are in this caucus, make it your responsibility to advise the constituency that there are these vacancies that need to be filled so that they do nominate persons to come in. And Honorable Speaker, we have referring to one Honorable Majome spoke about public transport and so forth. And the very last illustration of the offense that is on our statutes, we have the Criminal Laws Amendment Bill that's currently before Parliament. I think it's very opportune that you said it, Honorable Majome. I'm sure you can identify some of the members here so that they can propose the necessary amendment, because it's very critical. We have the Persons with Disabilities Act, the bill that's before Parliament. Honorable Speaker, I said to myself, would it not be a very good thing for this constituency, when the debate is going on, Honorable Speaker, to come in and sit in your gallery as the debate is done? You recognize them, and I'm sure it will prick a few consciences and we will do the right things in terms of advancing issues of persons with disabilities. I think let's do it. The place is very accessible at the new Parliament building, in the gallery. Let's see you until the debate is done. I know we may not be able to include everything that you want in the current legislation, but let's use the opportunity that is there. I thought, Honorable Speaker, these are the issues that I could highlight. There is lots of space for interaction between Parliament and this constituency. We are very open, from the Honorable Speaker right up to the last person in the institution. Let me also advise that I know in every government ministry now, they've created a post of a person who deals with issues of inclusivity. One of the things that this caucus in the Portfolio Committee on Public Service, Labor and Social Welfare must do is to be asking ministries what it is that they have done on issues of inclusivity, specifically dealing with issues of persons with disability. That must be one of your focus areas as a caucus and as the Portfolio Committee, Honorable Mashongani. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Chokuda. There's so much that we can do together, as he has highlighted. So I continue to plead with the partners to take up these opportunities that have been mentioned. Unfortunately, all good things must come to an end, and we are getting close to the end of our program. But before we do that, I also want to end with a quote, which unfortunately the clerk stole from me, but I'm still going to repeat it. His Excellency President Emerson Mnangagwa has said, and I quote, "No matter what difficulties may come our way, we must focus on a people-centered development philosophy that leaves no one and no place behind and promotes balanced development across all sectors, leaving no place and no person behind." That should be our mantra as we go forward. Honorable Speaker, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to moderate over this. This was parliamentary business, and I was able to moderate. I'm honored to have done so. Thank you so much. Let's give the Speaker a round of applause for that, for allowing that to happen. And we also want to, before the official vote of thanks, we also want to thank you all for coming, for being a part of this, for making sure that history has been made. We have seen this from the beginning. It's amazing to see it coming to fruition. But for some of us, the work starts now. There's so much that needs to be done. So having said that, let me invite Honorable Bridget Nyandoro to propose a vote of thanks. And once that has been done, this meeting would have been adjourned. Thank you all for attending. And let's give a round of applause as she comes.
Thank you, Director of Ceremonies. Good afternoon, everyone. Allow me to recognize the Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Advocate J.F.N. Mudenda. And in the interest of time, allow me to say all protocols observed. Mr. Speaker, with the ceremonial commencement of this momentous occasion now concluded, I find myself compelled to address the distinguished assembly with a profound sense of relevance and unbridled enthusiasm. For today does not merely herald the establishment of a Parliamentary Disability Caucus, but instead ushers in a transformative new epoch, one in which the voices of all individuals, irrespective of their respective capabilities, shall be afforded the unwavering recognition and representation they so rightfully deserve. Allow me to convey my most sincere, heartfelt appreciation to the Speaker of Parliament, Honorable J.F.N. Mudenda, for gracing this historic occasion with his esteemed presence and unwavering support. Your steadfast commitment to the principles and inclusivity and your unwavering advocacy for the inalienable rights of persons with disabilities serves as a shining beacon of hope that illuminates the path forward for us all. We, the distinguished members of the August House, do hereby wholeheartedly embrace your revered mantra that the disability does not and must never be permitted to equate to inability. We solemnly vow to carry forth this transformative ethos in every endeavor we shall henceforth undertake as we collectively strive to forge a future where the dignity, rights, and aspirations of all individuals are honored with the utmost reverence. Mr. Speaker, say, honorable members, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, collaboration lies at the heart of our aspirations. And today, as we stand united under the banner of the Parliamentary Disability Caucus on the rights of persons with disabilities, we recognize the indispensable role of collaboration between the government institutions, civil society organizations, and the broader community. It is through collective action and shared vision that we will realize the objective of the caucus and effect meaningful social and economic change in the lives of persons living with disabilities. Furthermore, let us buttress the sentiments expressed by the Honorable Speaker regarding the imperative of continuity. The establishment of the Parliamentary Disability Caucus is not merely a one-time event, but a commitment to sustained advocacy and progress which transcends a single parliamentary term. With steadfast dedication and perseverance, we will ensure that the flame ignited today continues to burn brightly for the generations to come. Lastly, I extend my heartfelt thanks to Deaf Zimbabwe Trust, site savers, and all our guests, including representatives of organizations for persons with disabilities, OPDs, whose unwavering support and dedication has been instrumental in making today's launch a resounding success. Your presence here today is a testament to the power of unity and collective action, and I am deeply grateful for your unwavering commitment to the noble cause. Mr. Speaker, sir, honorable members of parliament, and our esteemed guests, as we now commence the pivotal journey in unison, let us forever harness the unwavering spirit of solidarity and unyielding determination that has so graciously ushered forth this priceless occasion. For with each steadfast stride we take moving forward, let us be resolute in our collective pursuit of a future where the inalienable rights,
unassailable dignity, and boundless aspirations of people with disabilities are upheld with the utmost reverence and respect. A future where, as eloquently espoused in the hallowed mantra of our president, not a single individual nor any corner of our society shall be left behind. Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to thank you all for coming to this event, and allow me once again to thank our honorable speaker for making this program a success. I thank you.
May we be upstanding as the top table is going to leave the room. We take our seats now. May we take our seats now? We still have a few announcements to make, so may we be seated.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's been a good day and I'm happy. I just have a few announcements, logistics. I am sure that as we all came in, we registered. True? Okay, so this is how we're going to proceed. Lunch is ready, and we also have a little something for our transport.